Donald Trump just made a major statement directed at America's most vulnerable citizens, and it's already causing concern. He warned that Medicare and Social Security could disappear if the country continues down its current path. But what exactly did he mean by that? Could these essential programs really be at risk? And how might this impact people currently receiving benefits? We'll break all of that down, plus go over what's happening with the upcoming COLA increase, which could be officially announced as soon as tomorrow. Right now, projections for the 2026 Social Security cost of living adjustment are hovering around 2.6% to 2.9%, depending on which experts you ask. I'll walk you through the details, what those numbers mean for monthly checks, and whether there's any chance of a change in how the COLA is actually calculated, potentially in a way that's fairer to seniors. Before we get into it, if you appreciate these Social Security updates and want to stay informed, make sure to like this video and subscribe to Smart Senior USA for more reliable updates on benefits, Medicare, and retirement news. So, let's start with Trump's latest comments. During a press conference earlier this week, he warned that if Democrats refuse to approve a new funding bill, programs like Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid could be at risk. According to Trump, when he asked Democrats for feedback on the proposed funding measures, one of them responded by saying it means death. Trump clarified his position by saying, there is death because they're going to lose Medicaid, Social Security, and Medicare. Everything will be gone. The country would be bankrupt and people wouldn't even have medical insurance. That's a strong statement, but what was he really getting at? Was this an actual warning about an immediate collapse of these programs, or more of a political exaggeration tied to the ongoing government shutdown? To understand this better, let's look at what's happening behind the scenes. The current budget standoff centers around a dispute between Democrats and Republicans over government spending. Democrats have pushed back on proposed funding cuts that, according to GOP lawmakers, would otherwise prevent federal funds from being used for health care for undocumented immigrants. Now, it's important to remember that Social Security and Medicare are the backbone of financial and health stability for millions of Americans, particularly seniors, retirees, and those with disabilities. As of late 2024, Social Security provided monthly income for roughly 53 million people, representing about 16% of the U.S. population. If those benefits were ever interrupted, the ripple effects would be massive. Funding fights like this aren't new. In fact, the Congressional Research Service notes that shutdowns have become increasingly common over the past 30 years, usually triggered by partisan disputes over spending priorities. For those who've lived through decades of U.S. politics, you might have noticed how things have changed. If you're over 30 or have followed political debates for a while, do you feel like discussions across party lines were calmer years ago? Nowadays, it seems like any political conversation can turn into an argument. Maybe 20 or 30 years ago, people could disagree without being hostile. If you remember what it was like back then, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Back to Trump's remarks. The key takeaway here is that no current changes have been made to Social Security, Medicare, or Medicaid. Despite the shutdown, your benefits are safe for now. Payments continue as usual, and no one is losing their coverage in the coming weeks. Trump's warning was more about what could happen if the country ever faced a total financial collapse, not something that's on the immediate horizon. A White House spokesperson, Abigail Jackson, told Newsweek that Democrats caused the shutdown by insisting on health care funding for illegal immigrants and could reopen the government anytime by approving the same bipartisan resolution they agreed to just 6 months ago. She added that the Trump administration is working around the clock to minimize the harm caused by the Democrats' actions. So, bottom line, your benefits are safe, at least for now. The shutdown has stretched into its third week, but it hasn't stopped Social Security checks or Medicare coverage. Now let's shift to the COLA update, the cost of living adjustment that affects how much you'll receive next year. Because of the shutdown, the announcement for the 2026 COLA has been delayed again. Originally, it was expected on October 15th, but now the new target date is October 24th, possibly even later depending on how long the funding impasse continues. The good news is, any delay won't impact your current 2025 payments. The COLA adjustment applies to your 2026 checks, and there's still time before that takes effect. Most projections suggest that the 2026 COLA will fall between 2.7% and 2.8%, which translates to roughly $54 to $56 more per month for the average recipient. Compare that to last year's 8.7% boost, which was driven by high inflation, and this year's increase feels pretty small. Many seniors are understandably disappointed, especially with everyday costs like food, housing, and medical care still rising. A big question many are asking, should the COLA be calculated using a different inflation measure, one that better reflects seniors' actual expenses? Currently, the Social Security Administration bases adjustments on the CPIW, which measures inflation based on urban wage earners' spending habits, but advocates are pushing to replace it with the CPIE, which tracks spending patterns for older Americans. Because seniors spend more on healthcare and essential goods, the CPIE would likely result in larger COLA increases. According to the Senior Citizens League, retirees who started collecting benefits in 2024 could lose about $12,000 in purchasing power over the course of their retirement under the current system. That might not sound huge at first glance, but for many seniors living on fixed incomes, that amount can make a big difference. It could mean affording groceries, rent, or prescriptions. Some experts estimate that switching from the CPIW to the CPIE could boost COLA increases by as much as 10% in certain years, a massive improvement compared to the roughly 2% adjustments we're seeing now. So, what do you think? Should the system switch to a senior-focused inflation index, or should there be a flat increase, maybe $200 or $500, across the board for retirees? Most people agree that something needs to change because the current system isn't keeping up with real-world costs. Alright, that covers today's major updates, from Trump's comments about Social Security and Medicare to the status of the COLA announcement. And before we wrap up, here's a little positivity from Bella's tip of the day. Hi guys, it's Bella. Here's my tip. If there's something you really want to do, just do it. Whether it's going to space or just speaking your mind, believe in yourself and go for it. Make life exciting. And if you haven't already seen the story about Trump's proposal for $2,000 tariff rebate checks, you'll definitely want to check that out next. In that video, I'll even play the clip where Trump discusses it himself. Click over to that one now, and I'll see you there. Stay safe, take care, and thanks so much for watching Smart Senior USA.